And joining us now to talk more about the 2021 Matric results in South Africa is Dr Mafu Rakometsi. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Council for Quality Assurance in General and Further Education and Training, commonly known as UMALUSI. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I know it's been a busy day. Just for the purposes of helping our audience understand, particularly the education sector in South Africa, to do with the National Senior Certificate. This was the second year under COVID-19, but was there anything in particular that was special about adjudicating over the integrity of these results? The Minister of Education saying the largest cohort of matrics.
Indeed, the first thing to consider is the fact that these learners have been confronted by the COVID-19 pandemic for 2 consecutive years. And that over and above those challenges, the system was facing another strain, which is an increased cohort with about 170,000 learners. Now we'll know that the system that carries more learners is facing more strain. However, the department has acquitted itself very well by producing very good results, even under those circumstances that are very challenging.
Technically speaking, can you share with us what that means, the strains to the system, the minister characterizing it as, to use her words, a hostile environment? So the weight on the system, is it because of the rotational classes, the number of teachers that are available at any one time, also given COVID-19, etc.?
Yes, indeed. The learners in 2020 and 2021 were not able to go to school regularly. There was rotation, and there were different levels of lockdown. That would mean that they did not get the support that the students would normally get from their teachers. And over and above that, we had new subjects introduced in the system that had not been examined before, where people could look at the standards that had been set before with old question papers to take it from there. And to crown it on, the system had an increased number of learners, which would mean that the system would have to exert even more pressure in terms of delivery, because now they are carrying even more learners. So they were operating against all odds, but despite that, the system has shown resilience.
Can you confirm these figures, Dr. Rakometsi, that between 75% and a full school year behind, this is what most of South African school learners face because of COVID-19 and these challenges, and that in fact children lost 54% of learning time during this period?
Indeed. What has happened is that in some instances, learners would have to rotate. In some instances, because of social distancing, they would not attend for the full 5 days. But even despite that, the learners have been able to acquit themselves well. What this has taught us as a system, as a country, is that the build-up from grade R, grade 1, that is the foundation phase, through primary, through high school, those are the building blocks for any system to be resilient. You don't begin to work hard for the results at the end of the schooling system. Hard work has to happen from grade 1, and that will assist the system to face any kind of pressure that may come at grade 11 and grade 12 level. Hard work, the earlier grades.
I know it's difficult to get into greater detail of the challenges faced by learners in general, but we know that because of the socio-economic consequences of COVID-19, some losing breadwinners, some losing parents, close family, etc., etc. So that would have had quite a psychological impact on learners already under pressure from intermittent, in fact, often interrupted energy supply. We've had stories of learners having to study by candlelight. There was insecurity at some phase because of the July unrest. Talk to us do you think that this is the reason why we saw something in the region of 500,000 school learners drop out of school?
Indeed, these learners have faced a plethora of challenges. You have mentioned some. I'm just going to mention them again just to amplify the points. First of all, some learners lost their parents died, breadwinners lost their jobs. And when you face such traumatic situations, it is not easy for you to focus on your studies. You face death this side. If it is not death, your father, your mother is losing his or her job. That is very much strenuous, and it defocuses you from your books. To crown it all, at the time when these learners were writing their examinations, it was at the time when we were facing load shedding as a country. In some instances, even as they were writing in the examination room, they would be having load shedding. As they would be preparing for their papers the following day, there would be load shedding. There were a lot of challenges that these learners were facing. Even the fear of contracting COVID-19 themselves as learners. So there were a lot of challenges, in some instances, even losing their teachers through death. So these learners have gone through a very difficult period indeed.
So what then becomes your job as UMALUSI when you're doing quality assurance on the integrity of the subjects being written, some of which you said there was no precedence because they're new subjects, especially given all of these socioeconomic pressures, some of these things that learners, it's outside of their control?
What we have to do as UMALUSI, we have to ensure that policies are followed, the curriculum and assessment policy statement is followed, and that we don't compromise standards. So that the product that we are having out of the system in 2021 should compare favorably with the product that we had in 2015, 2016, when things were normal. Because the currency of the qualification that UMALUSI quality assures is very important. So what we have done is that we have ensured that standards are not dropped. We have ensured that we follow the same rigorous processes of quality assurance that we have been doing all these years, so that the learners, when they receive their certificates, the parents, the employers, the universities, should be able to say, this is what this certificate represents. That is the job of UMALUSI. Now, I want to reassure the South African public that indeed, that is what we did. We made sure that the quality of the certificate that these learners who passed are going to get, the quality should be the quality that is respectable, that has currency worldwide, and that can be respected by all the recipients of these certificates.
Dr. Rakometsi, there's the fact that South Africa, like many other countries, had to virtualize education. It was in an environment where quite a significant number of our teachers are not digitally or, should we say, not only empowered, but literate. They do not have the means. There's lack of equity across the board. If we look at the inequality that was highlighted from many spheres. So I'm just thinking of a child who is faced with some of these challenges, a teacher who's not au fait, with the online teaching or how to even relay the content through this medium, how this affects their understanding. They may not even have access to ICT in order to partake in the classes when it is part of their rotation. This is why I was asking about the work that UMALUSI has to do and how it drills down to the individual student for whom some of these factors was out of their control.
COVID-19 has been a real game changer. Things that we thought will attain after 20 years, 30 years, we have had to achieve in a short space of time. The department has shown that it is agile, that it is able to adjust quickly to the changing environment. People who never thought they would be able to teach online have had to teach online. People who never thought they could learn online, they've had to learn online. Something that you and I thought previously that can only be achieved in many years' time. It is only in instances where resources could not be made available that the students and the teachers had to soldier on, even using the old modes, even in these challenging circumstances. It is very unfortunate that we could not, the system could not provide everybody with these gadgets, with these facilities because of the inequalities that exist in our country. But even then, it still shows the resilience of the system that even with those challenges, we have been able to attain as a country this high percentage pass.
All right, thank you so much for speaking to us, Dr. Rakometsi. Much appreciated. He is the head of UMALUSI here in South Africa, the Chief Executive Officer of the Council for Quality Assurance in General and Further Education and Training, as we look at the country's National Senior Certificate results. We're talking about Matric results as they're known here.